What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today we're doing our tier list rankings for the jobs currently in Final Fantasy XIV. So with this, I know that there's going to be obviously the chance that people are going to disagree with this list, and I actually encourage that. And so in the description below, I'm including a link to this document itself so that if you want to go ahead and make your own tier list in response, please do send me the link. I look forward to watching that. I want to be able to kind of continue this conversation. Now, as any tier list goes, obviously this is my opinion, and what I've decided to rank these jobs off of is my personal enjoyment of the jobs themselves. I've got all of these jobs at their level cap. I would say 70, but we see here that we got Blue Mage down here in the corner, and I want to kind of talk about it because overall, like, I've put out my opinion about these individual jobs as I played them. So if you've been following along, I don't think this is really going to come as a surprise, but maybe it does, or maybe it serves as a refresher considering that these jobs have gotten updates since I originally put out my opinion on them. So without further ado, you can kind of see here I've got everything kind of grouped. You got the tanks, you got the healers, you got the ranged DPS. We don't have Dancer yet. I'm looking forward to be able to fill that slot there. Then we have our melee DPS, and we have our casters here, and I've got the 16-bit icons. Hopefully that is a lot of fun. And to start it off, I think we're going to start it strong, something that shouldn't be a shocker. We're going to take Warrior, and we're going to bring Warrior all the way over here into the S tier. This has become my personal favorite tank this expansion. It did not start out that way. For anybody who knows, I really came back to Paladin as soon as the expansion started and really enjoyed it, but after a couple of adjustments, Warrior was just too good to pass up, and so I just couldn't walk away. Like, after 4.2, Warrior was it. Last expansion I mained Dark Knight, and the previous expansion I actually mained Paladin. So there was a short stint in which that Paladin got me to return, and obviously with the next expansion we'll have Gunbreaker, so it's going to have to be a fun thing to do. We've been talking about our tanks, so let's keep our tanks rocking and rolling. We're going to say Paladin right here in an A rank. I feel like the job is still everything that I wanted it to be. Having the AoE, the ability to do that damage, as well as the shield being able to block magic, and your level 70 ability to really kind of protect your party. Warrior and Paladins seem to really kind of, mesh well together. They're both really strong tanking jobs, especially with just its inherent natural defensive abilities. The Paladin still makes it really a really beautiful tank, in my opinion, even though I haven't picked it up since Warrior took the top slot in in 4.2. I'm gonna come to the Dark Knight now. Where does Dark Knight fall? Well, honestly, Dark Knight, I love you. I love everything you've done, but I'm gonna have to put you at a B. I still am able to tank with Dark Knight. I still love the, obviously plunge and a lot of the abilities, but you took away my Dark Dance. You took away some of my abilities there, and so you really just, like, I leveled you, and I really haven't touched you much other than just a couple times kind of testing out Dark Knight. Now, this isn't to say that Dark Knight is a bad job by any stretch of the imaginations. When people were doing their World Force clears, especially we've seen Dark Knight obviously as a part of that end game progression rating, end game process, because it's about what is the most fun to play. So this isn't a this isn't a knock on my fellow Dark Knights out there. I'm hoping that with 4.0 or 5.0, yeah, with 5.0 that we get to see a return, because Dark Knight is kind of the cover job as we progress into Warriors of Darkness. So those are the tanks. We've got S, A, and B. I think a strong showing for tanks. Let's go ahead and pick on our healers right now. Let's see here. I don't think Scholar's an F or an E or a D or C. I don't know. Anybody's like, what are you doing, man? What? Scholar, absolutely an S tier healer. This, I'm a caster at heart, and while I did play around with Astrologian for a little bit this past expansion, Scholar ended up coming back and taking it for me. I enjoy Scholar as a healer, with the power, with the shields, with everything that you have to do with your kit as a Scholar. And then foundationally, where it started off a little bit weak for me, it ended up being the healer that I main the most, and because it's just my pure enjoyment for pet classes. I think pet classes are very important to me, and as well as casters. So with that, like, you could almost imagine, like, well, he's talking about pet classes and casters. That's right, Summoner up here as well. This has been my bread and butter since 2.0, Summoner Scholar, and I cannot say it enough that I am a summoner at heart. I love Scholar as well. I'm curious to see what happens with 5.0 with the battle system changes. We're going to hear more about that soon. And with those changes, I'm wondering if we'll ever see them split that out. But if they don't, I think that's going to be my my main until that ever changes, because of the fact that I can play both and I can level up both at the same time. And so then it's a matter about gearing and making sure I have the abilities necessary to go from there. I have a couple more jobs for the S tier. I don't want to fill up the list just yet, but I want to go ahead and jump into the thing that I started off with the most at the beginning of Stormblood, which was the Astrologian. And the Astrologian is going to join the Paladin right here at an A rank. I thought they had the best level 70 ability. I thought I liked the cards, I liked the mechanics that they introduced with the Astrologian, this expansion. Ultimately, Scholar for me took it the most, and so that's where I ended up enjoying Scholar from a healing perspective the most. But Astrologian, I think, is a lot of fun. There's still a lot to do. From a complexity perspective, there's a lot to manage when it comes to the cards. But once you get that, once you learn what the cards are there for and what you should do and where you should kind of apply it, it then just becomes that muscle memory. It just adds that extra level of little bit of time so that you can learn the cards. And we've put together guides on kind of how to trick your brain or short circuit it so that you can start to kind of have that more reactionary, a process when it comes to the card. So you don't have to necessarily think like, oh, if I give, this card, this is, you automatically respond like, okay, this is what I know I'm doing, and not having to be like, wait, who needs it right now? That's ultimately, once you kind of get past that with the Astrologian, that's where you succeed in and of itself. All right, we're going to go, we're going to have somebody join the Dark Knight here, and that's going to be the White Mage, guys. The White Mage at B. I personally think the White Mage has got a lot of damage. It's got a lot of healing power, but fundamentally I did not end up enjoying it as much as I thought I would. I started off, I kind of tested around with it, obviously got it to level 70, but it just couldn't stack up to, if I was going to have to play a healer, it was going to be in that order. Scholar, Astrologian, and then finally White Mage. The concept with the Lily system didn't register with me. That little bit of randomness didn't register with me, and so while it makes sense to how kind of it is applies, because it isn't really truly random, it's all about, did you put out any healing, and if so, that here's the things, especially with the plenary indulgences that they put in there. I like the name, I like the play on it, but fundamentally I ended up just kind of walking away from White Mage this expansion and not really spending too much time with it after really kind of testing it out past level 70 and giving it, I think, a fair shot when it comes to the other three healers. So it ends up falling down into the B category for me. Now, you guys probably know, but if you don't, I am a caster at heart. I love casters. I really do. But when it comes down to it, I actually had some surprising jobs this expansion, namely Bard. Bard came in when I went and played it, and I loved it. I loved what the Bard did with this, just with everything it offered. With it, obviously it's ranged, damage was helpful, but its ability to sing and kind of maintain those songs, I felt like it had more of an identity this expansion than it has in the past. I thought that was really great to see. It was a ton of fun. And so it was really kind of something that surprised me, because obviously they took away the bow casting kind of perspective of it, which really kind of turned me off originally, and I stopped playing Bard as soon as that kind of was introduced with it. And so when it came time to play and level up Bard here, I wasn't starting at level 60 going to 70. I was stuck at level, I think, 53, 52, 54, wherever they introduced that standing still mechanic, and it was so weirdly introduced into that expansion that I think Bard really, in my opinion, came back strong this expansion and had a lot to offer, especially when they did with kind of the all roll abilities in 4.4. That ended up being a big addition. It was a little bit difficult on my cross hotbars, but it was nice to be able to sit here and take all of these different enfeebling and crowd control abilities, as well as the ability to restore TP and MP. I thought Bard was really, really strong this expansion. I'm going to come back to Machinist here in a bit. I want to talk about the Red Mage right now. Red Mage was I mean, it just came onto the playing field super strong. I loved how it had the casting and then the melee aspect. What they did with it was just so powerful, and I ultimately really ended up enjoying my time with the Red Mage. Fundamentally, it couldn't compare to my Summoner and my love for obviously pet classes, but that doesn't mean that it's bad by any stretch of the imagination, and thus Red Mage, you're ending up as an A category here for everything that you just did right. I love the dual casting, I love the movement, I like the mobility, I love you in PvP as well. I thought Red Mage had a lot to offer, and it was just a lot of fun learning the rotations, learning how to kind of manage the DPS, and then just also your your emotes for victory and for battle ready, I think are just some of the best emotes in the game, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Dancer and Gunbreaker, because it just seems like introducing these new jobs is just the best. So Red Mage, thank you very much for your effort in being amazing, and I'm so glad you're in the game. All right, so let's go ahead, and this might not be necessarily the most popular opinion, and I might lose some of you guys on you, but I would love to see you guys go and again make a response to this. Dragoon, I'm not necessarily somebody who loves a lot of melee DPS, and I'm going to talk about that here just in a second when we talk about Samurai. But Dragoon, with your timings, I like your mobility. I like your just pure like raw damage when you really can, you know, when you're firing at all cylinders. Like, it is really always great to have a Dragoon. I love seeing a Dragoon in my party, hands down. But for me, specifically playing it, I'm gonna have to. It's just not going to make the cut. It's like Dragoon, for me to see me on a main Dragoon, that would be a rare sight indeed after the leveling experience, after I kind of really play with it to get a good feel for how the controller layout and how the rotations go. That's just where I have to kind of put you. I love the Dragoon. Kain is such a kind of an important part of my history when it comes to Final Fantasy. So I'm not trying to knock you any stretch of the imagination right here. I'm literally just saying, like, when it comes down to it, it's just not for me. But it's still, I think, a solid job all around. Now, I say I'm not a melee DPS at heart. I say that. But Samurai came in this expansion, and I think it hit every nail on the head. Like, I personally love it. I'm actually going to rank this as an S rank. Samurai, you came in strong. You are a black mage with a sword. Like, this is what I was really surprised, because if you're going to have me main a melee DPS, it's absolutely Samurai, hands down, 100%. I loved every second of playing this job. I liked how quick it was. I liked how you know, just how its rotation setup worked. I love how you could build up and you could expend your power. Like, I felt like its toolkit was just like right on par, that they really nailed it this expansion. I'd love to know what you guys think about that, because especially as a non-melee DPS, like, Samurai is a converter. Like, this is my melee DPS job. This is what I'm going to play. If that's what if I have that option, that's what I'm going with. Sure, you don't have any utility, but your utility is your raw power. Now, would I want a DP all Samurai melee DPSs? Not necessarily. Like, pairing it with Bard, pairing it with Dragoon, pairing it with these other jobs, I think helps the party out more substantially than anything else. But Samurai, I have to say thank you for your service, and we will be seeing each other soon. And I can't wait to see what happens in 5.0. Hopefully, you only then improve. Sometimes it seems like things kind of jump up. Okay, so we talked about Dragoon, White Mage, Dark Knight. We've got Red Mage. We got, okay, so we're missing two with my A category. I'm gonna talk about Ninja. Ninja, I'm going to put you right here at the A rank. This is when we talk about that melee DPS. The thing I really appreciated about Ninja was its speed. I felt like the job played so fast. I liked all the different murders that you could use, but especially when with the frog, like, I thought it became fun and interesting. But I just really appreciated the speed overall. Like, I think especially when it came down to it, Samurai, in my opinion, was faster, but Ninja, you had just that rotation. Everything felt fast and fluid, and just kind of, it was really enjoyable to play, which was a real surprise to me. But when it compares to the Samurai, it fundamentally just could not stack up. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit controversial ranking here. We're going to talk about Blue Mage, and I'm not going to put him at an S rank, but where does Blue fall for me? Like, if I was going to play this job, where does it fall? Blue Mage, and people have told me this, they're like, how can you go against the community? Everybody hates Blue Mage. Everybody doesn't hate Blue Mage. I think Blue Mage, as it exists as a job of potential, as a job of interest, is a fun experience for me that I've enjoyed, and I look forward to further experiences with it. I think it shows more lacking in what the game's content offers as opposed to the job itself. I still think that by the fact that they'll never hit to level cap any given expansion, at least that's what we've been told so far, is a disappointment. It is frustrating. I think at the end of an expansion, it's fine that you should allow them to hit the level cap. So around 5 or something like that, after all the raids and stuff have been done, there shouldn't be any reason why these limited jobs can't, make it up. Especially in these last couple months where really, like when the content's been cleared and we're just waiting for the next expansion. So that in and of itself is a little bit frustrating. We're going to have to see where this goes. Blue Mage can only go up or down from here. It's kind of middle of the road. I love the concept. I love the skills. I love how it plays. I love being out in the open world. I love what it did for the community. But obviously without any real reason to keep going out and doing real world and open world content, what do? You kind of wait around. So Blue Mage is sitting out in limbo right now, but I'm going to give it a C rank because I think it's starting out strong. It is limited to 50. We do need to see more adjustments, and the only cure for that is time to see what happens. Now, I know that's probably controversial because a lot of people do not like this job and wish that it was a true quote-unquote job, not content, but actually a job in the system. I don't know. I think we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Once it gets to 70, it'll be neat to see, where it falls in with the overall consensus, because we've only seen kind of the starting aspects of it. And so that's just where I fall, and I'm curious to see what ends up happening with it in the long run. We'll obviously have to revisit the power rankings here in the future, especially after 5.0. All right, so Blue Mage is there, so you can kind of see that, and if I've lost you, I apologize, but stick with me. We got 3 jobs left: Machinist, Monk, and Black Mage. I'm going to go ahead and go with Monk, and this is where I think it's going to get controversial. I did not like Monk whatsoever. If you are a Monk main, I love you. You're a great individual. I did not enjoy this job. I did not enjoy my time with it. I was looking forward to once it finally hit 70. Oh, it was such a sigh of relief. I did not connect with the Monk concept and people have kind of instructed me like, oh, you kind of have to think of it like a dancer. There's a rhythm to it, and I can respect that. But again, I did not enjoy Monk. And again, if I see a Monk in my group, that's great. I honestly think Monk would be much better served if one of these tanks, if we had a new tank that had a giant hammer, because you got that blunt damage down, it'd be really cool to see like it kind of combo with a tank, and I don't think it currently does at the moment. Now that could easily change in Shadowbringers, or maybe that none of that makes any kind of sense, and obviously we'll give it another shot to see how it plays out. But fundamentally, I did not enjoy the job. I did not enjoy my time with it, and thus I have to give it a D rank. Just heads up, guys, there really isn't an E and an F rank. I think every job brings something strong to the table, and I still probably am planning on playing every job. Now let's go ahead and let's go ahead and trash another job, in my opinion, and that's Machinist. I know there were Machinist mains out there who love this job. I think if they took the turret and turned it into some kind of pet where it wasn't so static, where you could bring out your machines and they could do different things, I think that would change my entire approach to the job and my enjoyment. It's weird that one little thing, because as a pet class, you would think I would enjoy the turrets, and I didn't. I felt like they ended up adding a little bit, just extra things to manage, and I didn't appreciate that. So when I was playing Machinist, especially when it relates to Bard, oh my gosh, I loved Bard. And then I was like, man, I'm looking forward to Machinist. And maybe my expectations were out of whack. Maybe, who knows what that ends up meaning. But Machinist, I'm sorry, I just couldn't get and connect with the mindset of what it means to be a Machinist and what it means to play that job. And finally, we've got one last job to rank. I said there's no E's and F's, so I guess I shouldn't tease that. Black Mage, as you guys said, like I said earlier, I'm a caster at heart. Black Mage, Red Mage, Summoner and Scholar, Astrologian, White Mage. Like, I love jobs in which that I can cast spells. I've always done that. Now, I was kind of a Black Mage main in 1.0. In 2.0, Summoner Scholar really kind of took that as its primary. Red Mage came in really strong for a while, and I fundamentally ended up just playing Black Mage with friends. Enjoyed it really actually in PvP. I thought the PvP design of it was really well done, and so it's a really toss-up between Red Mage and Black Mage for me. And so this last expansion, obviously Summoner was kind of where I put a lot of my focus, but I just really appreciated what Black Mage was. I loved how they made the changes with Enochian, this chain. Inside joke. With that, and so I have to say, like, the jobs in Final Fantasy XIV all have an incredible strength to them. I think especially as we introduce more jobs, it's really quite impressive the amount of work that they put into it to have that level of balance, to have these fights and have these debates and have these arguments, and not anybody's really right or wrong because there's a lot about preferences. Obviously we can do different numbers and like really focusing on who brings the most power to the game, and that's where they listen and try to make those adjustments. And you could see that happening in Stormblood, because Warrior for me was just not interesting once at level 70, but then at 4.2 I was like, that small change really made it just an enjoyment to play. Anyway, like I've said, guys, these are my rankings. In the description you can find a link to this document if you want to go take it and make your own, and I'd encourage you to do so, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from you in that regards. If you like this video, if you like these rankings, be sure to hit that thumbs up, share this video. Let's continue the conversation, let's have the discussion around the jobs, and let's look forward to Shadowbringers here in just a few weeks. It's insane how close we are. For Work to Game, my name is Brian. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a phenomenal day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.